Hello, welcome to G's Place, and I'm your host, Gladys Thomas Toscano. And my guest today is Ralph Robinson, author of Back in the Day. Thank you, Ralph, for agreeing to be a guest on my show.
That's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yes. Now, the book, Back in the Day, you got to read it. You're going to love it, okay? It's about the memoirs of his teen years and adolescent years from living in Newark, New Jersey, moving up to Martha's Vineyard. Now, if anybody's from Jersey or the New York area, you know this is a transition. I read the book. I enjoyed it immensely. It was fun. I laughed. I reminisced. The music and whatnot, the photos, great. So let me ask you a question. Most men don't like talking about their teen years, much less writing about them. So what prompted you to put pen to paper and just get it done?
Yeah, I agree with you. And the book is pretty transparent. But I think my profession has something to do with that because I'm a counselor and psychotherapist. So I'm used to talking about a lot of personal things, and I don't feel threatened by that. I talk about in the book about a transition period from an inner city neighborhood to rural Martha's Vineyard, which is quite a contrast when you think about it. And in fact, when we first migrated here, I call it the Great Migration, during the mid to late '60s. It was very difficult for me because it was like culture shock. As a matter of fact, I was so angry with my mother that I wouldn't speak to her for 2 weeks unless it had to do with life, death, or nourishment. But in the end, in her King Solomon-like wisdom, she knew it was the right thing to do for us at the time. And so it enabled my family to not only survive, but to thrive. Mm-hmm. So.
Cool. So let me ask you, what is the fondest memory in the book?
For me, again, this is childhood, adolescence, pre-adolescence time period. I had a bunch of guys that I hung around with, and we developed we called it a gang. We were really like semi-delinquent wannabes. It was called the Wildcats, and we were really a close, cohesive group of guys who thought that we were the baddest guys around at that age. We were only 10, 11, and 12 years old, but we called ourselves the Wildcats, and we did everything together. And there were times when we would march around the courtyard with our arms draped over each other's shoulders, and we had a theme song, and it went like this: "We are rough. We are tough. We are the guys that don't take no stuff, so take off your shoes and smell your feet. We are the boys from James Street." Okay, and that was our chant, that was our mantra. And we would walk around the court daring anybody our age or younger to to mess with us. So that was a great time in my life. It was a lot of fun. We never really got into any heavy mischief, but we let everybody know that we were the coolest things around. Mm-hmm. We had blue jackets with a Wildcat patch ironed on the back.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we were regimented.
Oh,
that was fun.
That's interesting you said regimented. Let me ask you this. What was your family's reaction to the book? I know you mentioned that some read it and thought that it was a good product and that it should be out there and read it. But is there anything you put in the book you wish you hadn't put in the book?
There's nothing that I wish I hadn't put in there. And my family responded really well to it. I think, though, that they thought when I put this book out, it was going to be more like a family history. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it isn't. That's a major task because I have a very large family, as you know. So, no, it isn't a family history. It's just my story. I went to a conference once, a professional conference, and there was a panel of well-known authors who had a session on how to write a book. And they talked about how everyone has a story to tell. So it developed for me that struck my interest, and it developed as a hobby as I was going through it. But I found that writing the book was a challenge, but it was so joyful to be able to think about those times in the past where I had so much fun that I just said that I just kept going with it, and it was a hobby. I let a few people read it. They thought that it was an easy read, a good read, and a read that would take you through a range of emotions.
Right.
So
I
got
agree.
a lot of good feedback, but I really did it for myself and them. I read this book over and over again, and each time I laugh because it makes me laugh, and I know of these experiences, but it's nice to be reminded of it every now and then.
So would you say it was somewhat therapeutic for you?
Yes, probably so, because I didn't have much of a childhood, being the oldest of 3 boys, right? And mom and dad divorced at an early age. So I had a lot of responsibility in helping to raise my brothers, right? So I didn't have a lot of childhood time. So the memories that I do have from childhood, I cherish. So it was therapeutic because it allowed me to go back and recall those memories. So.
I also found it very interesting the way you handled the social, cultural, and racial differences when you were growing up. So tell us about, actually, from reading the book, tell me about the Wildcats.
Yeah, the Wildcats was a group of us young men from ages 10 to 12. And there were a couple of them that were even younger than that, but we didn't allow them to participate in most of the activities. They was just kind of like augmented us.
Little mascots.
Yeah. But in Jersey, we lived in an area called the Baxter Terrace Projects. The BT was the short name for it, and affectionately known as the BT. And the group of guys, there was a sociological experiment going on at that time in these projects, where there were different ethnic groups living side by side, okay? So there were African Americans, Italian Americans, Asian Americans, Hispanic Americans. And we were all
in the same complex?
Right.
Wow.
Right. And I'm told it was sort of a sociological experiment, the melting pot, to try and understand how cultures can get along with one another. And it worked really well, actually. You asked me what I should have included,
if there's anything you wish you did differently.
Differently, I may have included, talked more about that in the book, because it was pretty interesting. So our gang consisted of mostly African Americans, but we had Caucasians, a couple of Caucasians and Italians in the group too, and but we all got along really well. The culture was like unique. It was like a melting pot culture. We weren't really considering each other as being different, although there were some differences, and we celebrate differences. That's one thing I really love about living in this country, is the way we celebrate differences, most of us. So but it was a good cohesive group, different ethnic backgrounds, and you did not hear much about racial strife, because the only thing that was sort of racist, not racist, but discriminatory, was based upon socioeconomic status, but not racial divides.
More status than color,
Right.
And that still kind of exists today.
Right, and I think even on Martha's Vineyard.
Oh,
that
absolutely.
There's a class structure, and there may be some discrimination based upon that, but you don't see as much racial divide as you do on the mainland here on the Vineyard. I think that's what attracts many people to the Vineyard.
So you mentioned that you're in counseling and therapy, and I understand you're the director of counseling at Delaware State University. Right. Let me ask you something. Did you choose that profession, or did that profession choose you?
A little bit of both, actually. I'm actually in my second career, because I was in the Air Force for 21 and a half years. Well, while I was in the Air Force, I was a senior NCO, and my job was sort of a liaison between the commander and the troops. Okay, so many of the troops, whenever they had problems or issues, would have to come to me before going to see the commander, and we would try and resolve it, because commanders are pretty busy men. So I did a lot of counseling, okay, and I think that I did it well, because they would come to me often. Now, they would also come to me when they got in trouble too. So, I was a good hat guy and a bad hat guy depending upon the situation.
Right.
I like doing that, and I like helping people. The reason I got into this profession after leaving the military is because I was sensitive to the needs of some people who don't have the coping skills needed to be able to live a fruitful and positive life, you know, and I wanted to be able to help them to get there. So before leaving the military, I went back to graduate school and also obtained a license, clinical license, and started working in higher education as a counselor. In 2008, I became the director of counseling. But this is my take on what I do. You know, there are, I think, 7 billion people on the planet now. Mm-hmm. And right, and we're all different, and we have some similarities, but you know, we all have differences. To me, that is absolutely fascinating. You know, mm-hmm. I am fascinated by human behavior and human beings, and I think you really have to like people to do the kind of work that I do. Any kind of helping profession, yes. you have to like people. If you don't like people, you're in the wrong profession. So. As a matter of fact, my students, they often make fun of me because sometimes I will go over to the mall. There's a mall right across the street from the university, and mm-hmm. I'll go over at lunchtime and I'll sit on the bench and just watch people watch. Because I just think that people are fascinating. It's fun. Yeah, and it's fun, yeah, mm-hmm. to see all the different varieties. So it chose me and I chose it, you know. Mm-hmm. I don't know which comes first, the horse or the cart, but that's why I do it.
It's interesting to me because in case you didn't know and you recognize the name, Ralph Robinson is the son of Shirley Robinson. And many of you may know Miss Robinson from the community center in Vineyard Haven, where she ministered to a lot of children back in the day. And I think it was last year they gave this big surprise party to her at the PA Club. And all these former students just came out to say thanks for what she did. It was amazing to me because I, for one, haven't seen that. And secondly, very often people don't, and Miss Shirley, don't get upset with me, but people don't say thank you to you or think about what you've done for them until you're gone. And it was really nice of them to honor her and just sit her down in the middle and just accolades of thanks. It was so adorable. So it's obvious the apple did not fall far from the tree with her son Ralph. So there you go.
Yeah, I guess not. You know, because Mom did a lot of counseling. She was like a surrogate mother.
Mom, yes, that's what they were saying.
Many of the youth center kids. Yes. Yeah.
What was it, like an after school program kind of thing there?
Youth center, yeah. It was after school and weekends. You know, something for the kids to do. You know, they had to be in high school though.
Yeah, because so many of them just went on and on about how she helped them and different ways she advised them, and it's really cool. And now here her son is doing the very same thing in the university level, mm-hmm. right?
Right.
Okay, so now I just want to ask you this. As a counselor dealing with children, or I should say young adults, because when you go into college you're considered a young adult, coming into the college scene, the whole thing. What advice, because you're a parent too, what advice would you give parents with children, college-bound students? What would you say?
Well, we often would tell parents that when they're sending their child away to school, mm-hmm. They need to try and foster a little independence. It's good for the child because this is the kind of experience that they need to be able to grow and develop, and it's a good thing. So, but we want parents not to be. There's a term that's used called a helicopter parent, which is a parent that sort of hovers over their child's every move while they're 300 miles away, but they're calling them every day and they're giving them advice every day, and it's out of concern, you know, and worry, but. It doesn't help with the growth and development and help. And so what we try to advise parents to do is to not sort of hoard it over them and continue to nag them, because that's a trust issue. And mm-hmm. And then when they do that, the student won't always tell them what's really going on. So parents need to talk to their child about what the ground rules are going to be in terms of communication and finances, and how often are they going to call one another and talk to one another. And I think that parents also need to, if they're experiencing the empty nest syndrome, they need to be able to be active in and do things that that they couldn't do when their child was at home. Like go on a cruise, or go get involved in some kind of community activity, or
volunteer.
Volunteerism.
Go and volunteer somewhere, so, and embrace the quiet home, embrace the time alone, embrace it. Yes,
absolutely, because you deserve it.
Yes.
So that's kind of what we do now. In terms of students, we want them to know, first of all, that they have counselors that they can come and talk to about anything and everything. We are there to help them maintain good mental health, because the studies show that if students don't have good mental health, then they can't be successful academically. So we invite all first-year students to come in and meet their counselor. They don't even have to have an issue. We just want them to get acquainted. We want them to know about the resources that we have available. In the event that there's something that's really kind of personal or sensitive or heart-rendering, they know who their counselor is. They've talked to them. They feel comfortable. They can come and talk. And they know that they can trust us, because that's really important. As counselors, we have a code of ethics that we have to adhere to, that tells us to protect the privacy of our students.
Because technically they are adults.
Right.
So you don't necessarily, but you have to, I guess, alleviate their anxiety about whatever's going on, and knowing that you're not going to rat them out to mom or dad.
That's right. And so that's very important.
Yeah, that's cool. It's interesting to me. Do you do that whole meeting with the students prior to the beginning of the school year, or once school starts, encourage them to come in?
Yeah,
come and say hello and meet me and all that.
Once school starts, actually we let them know about what we do during their orientation. Or some of them come for orientation during the summer prior to their fall semester. But then when they come back, we do send them invitations to come in and
nice.
Meet us. Yeah, and that works well, because they get to see the resources that we have available.
Right, that's interesting. Okay, so now, living at home with mom and dad, even living on your own, is different than living on campus, and what to expect on campus. Are there any must-dos or must-don'ts that you want to share with the students, any college-bound students, about campus life?
Right. Well, as I said, knowing what resources are available is very important for students, especially if they're having any kind of academic difficulty. They need to know about their academic advisor, and they need to know about the support systems that are in place, like tutoring and supplemental instruction, and the resources that we have: a reading lab, a writing lab, a math lab. These are things that can help if they get into trouble academically and they need us. But if they don't know about it, it could be a problem. So that's one of the things that we do, is we make sure that they know about those things that are available. And then also, we want to let them know that they can come and talk to us about any kind of issue that they may have that gets in the way of their academic success, any barriers that may be there. Anxiety seems to be a problem right now among college students, because they're under so much pressure to be successful and excel, especially when their parents are investing so much money into their education. And then they come and they're not sure whether or not they can pass the classes, or they're really unsure about a lot of things. So anxiety is a problem, and we're dealing with that. Some students actually come in with formal diagnosis of mental disorders that we also have to deal with and give them the support that they need. So if they utilize our services, normally they're pretty successful. So that's kind of what we do and where we're at with new students. And then the returning students, we offer them the same provision to come in and meet with us anytime they have an issue that might be getting in the way of their meeting their goals.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have a handicapped grandson. I was just wondering, are all campuses now obligated under ADA to be handicapped accessible?
Yeah, they are. They are. And not only for handicap, but any kind of disability, whether it may be physical or psychological, they have to have accommodations. So we have a accessibility officer that handles all those kinds of things for students.
Interesting. I also am a little concerned about, you know, the headlines lately, all these accusations of, how should we put it, sexual misbehavior on campuses and all the allegations. Are colleges set up to have a program to advise young ladies, you know, the do's and don'ts, or young men, the do's and don'ts to avoid this sort of thing?
Yeah, that's a very hot issue right now.
Very hot.
So much so even that President Obama has assigned a task force of professionals in the field of counseling, psychotherapy, and sexual assault, domestic violence. This task force is actually going around to different college campuses. They're doing a virtual reality webinar to solicit ideas and thoughts about how we can better protect women from sexual assault on college campuses.
Good.
And this is a task force that is really working hard and moving well. And with the idea is to educate young men and women about sexual assault, what constitutes sexual assault, and how they can protect themselves and how they can look out for each other. So at our university, we actually have a grant, a $500,000 grant that we received from the Violence Against Women's Act office in Washington, D.C. To help eradicate sexual assault by educating students and faculty and staff too. So we're doing that as a collaborative grant with the University of Delaware. So Delaware State University and University of Delaware are both working on this education piece to help eradicate the sexual assault and violence and domestic violence on college campuses. As far as women, we never want to blame the victim, but there are things that women can do to better protect themselves. So we talk about that. We also talk about what men can do. And as a matter of fact, we have a program called the Campus MOST program for men. And the MOST stands for Men of Strength, on campus. And these guys are students who volunteer to learn about sexual assault and to campaign to eradicate it. And they're getting guidance from a group called Men Can Stop Rape, a big organization in Washington, D.C. They're doing all the training for our students. Our students are formulating a group, and their premise is to go out and to educate other young men about bystander intervention, how that they can, intervene when they see inappropriate behavior. And so we're really excited about that. We're really excited because
I think that's excellent.
Men have a big part in this too. We can't blame women and put it all on them. Men have to take responsibility also, and our students are stepping up.
That's good, because there's two sides of it, and all I can say is, as a mom and a mother of boys, I would not want to be responsible or think that my son was involved in something like that as his mother, nor would I want to be the mother of the young lady who's been hurt. So I can suggest to parents, now that we know that President Obama has this act and they have this task force, if you have kids going to college, you tell your sons get involved and you tell your daughters, whatever the information they're offering, go find out about it and protect yourself. It's all you can do, because they're not home. So even if they were home and they went out and something happened, you couldn't help them. So information and knowledge is the key here.
Exactly, G, and that is one of the things that we do in addition to individual counseling with students. What we do is a series of what we call student personal development workshops. And these are workshops that we hold to inform students about the facts about alcohol, sexual assault, domestic violence, substance abuse, all kinds of things, interpersonal relationships, stress management is a big one. So these are all the kinds of workshops that we do with students to inform them and to give them the facts so that they can make informed decisions about their behavior. And it's really helpful for their again, for their growth and development.
No, because those are life coping skills.
Exactly.
I mean, quite frankly, for any age.
Yeah.
But the younger, I guess, college is a good time as any to start it, and it's helpful in many, many ways.
Yeah. One of them that we do is managing anger, which is something that I think should be taught all the way from grammar school. All the
I have always said that.
Yeah.
Ralph, I've always said that because as a mother of raising boys in Brooklyn, New York, and some of the things I've seen some of these boys and these students do in school, and you're like, didn't somebody teach him how to control that? Yeah. How to work around that or through that? That's a good one. I've always said that. Not only that, I'm a big person on manners. My mother was a Georgia peach and she could smell bad manners, okay? And some of these young people today do not have a clue. And I think that the earlier you teach kids the fundamentals, because I know your mom and I know how you were raised. He's also part of the Tankard family. Okay, so if you know Shirley Robinson, you know she's one of the Tankards and he's part of that big Tankard family. And I can tell you this is a very gracious family, big on manners. So it's one of those things you instill in your children at a young age. And I think over time and with social media and all that, these basic skills, these learned skills are not being taught anymore.
Yes, I once heard a pastor say, it's difficult to teach discipline to your children. It hurts. It's hard sometimes. Oh, yeah. It's tough love to do that. But if you don't, then you suffer a little bit now in disciplining them, or you can suffer a whole lot later.
You can pay the consequences later
by having to bail them out of jail or bury them because they never learned self-discipline. And I would venture to say that there are many prison inmates. If you were to ask them how they got there, they'll tell you, I never learned how to control my temper. Yes.
Or to wait my turn, or to be patient. And that's another thing that concerns me about today. Because everything is so quick.
Right.
Everything is immediate. People
instant
get into
gratification.
Instant gratification. And people are not aware of what it takes to just wait on certain things or to bide your time, again, with credit and all the rest of it. These are serious issues that when children are taught young could save them as well as the parents a lot of grief. I just think. I really do.
Ditto.
Ditto. Okay, and now there's another thing too. This is volume 1. Back in the day,
right.
And there'll be a volume 2 coming out. Now, when is that due?
Hopefully that'll be out in January, towards the end of January. That's what I'm pushing for. Volume 2 is just an extension of Volume 1. Volume 1, by the way, is a memoir from 1963 to 75. 75 was the year that I actually joined the Air Force. So Volume 2 is going to be about
a continuation.
Continuation.
Okay.
Of the beginning of my Air Force career through the end. So 21-year history. I have a lot of really great experiences that I want to talk about in Volume 2 concerning my military career. Yeah. And the highlight of that was when I was assigned as a personal assistant to Admiral Crow, a Navy admiral who was actually the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff just prior to General Colin Powell. And that was a very interesting assignment. I was with him for 2 years, and when he was Commander-in-Chief of the Pacific, and I was actually on the plane with him when the Secretary of Defense, at that time it was Caspar Weinberger, called and said, "You got the job," meaning the President has selected you for the next Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
Wow.
So needless to say,
history.
Yeah, that was wonderful to be able to experience working with him and traveling all over the Pacific region. You know, the Pacific Command is the largest command in the world. It's over 100 million square miles.
Wow.
Right? You're talking about the North Pole, South Pole, West Coast of, East Coast of Africa and West Coast of the United States and everything in between. So it's a very large command. And Admiral Crow tried to travel to every area and he would take us along with him. So I talk about those experiences in the book.
Interesting, very interesting.
It was a wonderful time and great memories. Also, in Volume 2, I revisited a chapter from Volume 1 called Hot Fun in the Summertime, which was about summertime in New Jersey. But that's one thing I wish I had talked more about in Volume 2 is hot fun in the summertime on Martha's Vineyard. Right? And some of my boys said, hey, how come you didn't mention us? And I said, well, it was, 1963 to 75. I didn't know you then. But
now you'll get a chance.
I'm going to, and so there'll be a nice long chapter on hot fun in the summertime on Martha's Vineyard. And a lot of my summer friends are included, and I think they'll really enjoy that. I also have a chapter on my spiritual journey, which I thought was really important for me to put in there. I think it can be enlightening for some people. I have to mention that, this transition from inner city Newark to Martha's Vineyard, which is which is a rural area, is very similar to what my students are going through at Delaware State University, because Delaware is located in a tri-state area, hour and a half from Philadelphia, hour and 45 from Baltimore, 2 hours from DC, 2.5 from New York. Okay, so all of these big cities, and most of the students that come to Del State come from those inner city neighborhoods, right? And they come to rural Delaware. So many of them have read my book, and they said that they could identify.
Yes.
So it was really
the culture
relevant.
shock.
It was relevant for them. Yeah. So. So that was a good thing.
Oh, I know. What made you pick that name back in the day? It's such an expression so many people use.
Yeah, I know, including myself.
Yes.
I have to give credit to my wife for that. When she was alive, I would sit down and talk to her about my childhood experiences, and I was always using, back in the day, we used to do this.
And we used to do that,
back in the day. And I told, we was talking about what title should be, and she said, I think you should call it Back in the Day, because you're always saying that. And so that's why.
Yeah, good idea.
I named it Back in the Day.
Yeah, because it's a popular song, and it was also a movie, I think, about a year or two ago.
Right.
Back in the day.
Yeah.
So Volume 2 will be January.
Right.
We'll be looking forward to that.
And you'll be able to purchase it on Amazon. Just Google my name or the name of the book, Back in the Day, Volume 2. Volume 1 is also available there.
Oh, it's a good read.
And there may be 1 or 2 copies of the book at the Bunch of Grapes bookstore still. I'm not sure.
Oh, on the Vineyard. Okay, cool.
Vineyard,
Okay, excellent. Well, I really enjoyed this. Is there anything else we didn't talk about?
Well, I wanted parents to understand how counselors work with their children, and I want them to know that we really have an affinity for our students, because at my university anyway, some of the students consider us sort of like surrogate parents, a parent away from home, someone they can come and talk to and trust. And we're family oriented, and that's okay, and we enjoy that. But I always tell students, if you need money, go to your real parents.
I can relate to that. Well, thank you so much for being a guest on my show. I really enjoyed this. And we'll have to do it again when Volume 2 comes out.
Great. It will be my pleasure. And congratulations to you, too, on your show.
Thank you so much. Thanks. Again, thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And I look forward to seeing you again soon. And Happy New Year.